There are a wide variety of squares to purchase on the market. The small ones, a 4.5-inch one. This is actually a lefty-righty one. Left-handed people use the red numbers, right-handed people use the black numbers. You could go slightly bigger and have a 6.5-inch one. This is great because 6 inches is a patchwork block, and of course you've got a 6.5-inch one, so that's adding the seam allowances on. You might want to go larger still. There's a 9.5-inch one there, again lefty-righty. Probably the most popular one, and the one that I would recommend, is a 12.5-inch one. If you haven't got a square, get this one, because many patchwork blocks are 12.5 inches, so you can simply cut a square out if you're doing an applique of 12.5 inches, and that'll fit all the other squares in your design. Or indeed, if your block happens to be a little bit larger than the desired 12.5 inches, you can use it to square it off. Again, there are a variety of makes. There's a lefty-righty version of this one too. And if you really wanted to, you could go large and have a seriously big one. This is a 15.5-inch one. Now, all of these squares will do sizes of squares right from almost a 1/4 inch up to whatever the size is on the ruler. This does up to 12.5 inches. So how are you going to use it? First of all, iron your fabric. Lay your fabric out flat. I'm going to cut a 7-inch square. So I'm going to put the ruler in the top corner of the fabric. The ruler is on the material. And just get it nice and straight. There we are. Rotary cutters. You could use the 45 one, you could use the 28, or you could use the 60. I tend to use a 45 for preference. I'm going to cut a 7-inch square. So starting cutting slightly before the 7, cut up the side of the ruler. You're then going to cut across the top of the square. Now this is perfectly permitted because should you slip, you're going to slide that way across your body and not into your body. So I've cut slightly more on both sides. Just cut through the end there. Trim off the excess fabric. Give it a quick trim. And again there. Oops daisy. Let's cut that bit off. Yeah, trim it back. Right, now you're going to turn the fabric through 180 degrees. That's right round the other way. So the fabric is now technically on your right hand side. The ruler is going to eat its way on from the left, and it can eat its way on and do 4 inches, it can do 5 inches, it can do 6 inches, and in our case it's going to do 7 inches. So there it is, neatly aligned with that right angle I cut in the first place. Guard off your cutter, cut up there and along there. So that is an accurate 7 inches. But of course I could have had a 6 3/4, I could have had what I liked. Now, right-handed people will cut that way. If you are left-handed, then it is the other way around. So yet again, lay your fabric on the cutting mat. Take the ruler, place the ruler on the fabric. Now, I happen to be right-handed, so I'm going to find this slightly difficult. My left hand isn't strong enough. Guard off your cutter. Start cutting a little bit before the 7 inches. Push the ruler, push the cutter up the edge of the ruler. And again along the top there. There we go. So you're doing exactly the same principle. Just have to use my right hand because I'm just not strong enough. This time you will now turn the fabric round again 180 degrees, and the ruler for left-handed people will come in from the right hand side. You can remember that because ruler begins with an R. So ruler in from the right, and then all you're going to do then is guard off your cutter. Let's have the board there. And cut up the edge, oopsie daisy, you won't slip because you'll have more strength in your left hand than I do, and along the top. So cutting squares is really simple. Sorry, forgive me while I just finish this off, I'm just not strong enough. When you are choosing a ruler, I would seriously suggest that you go for a 12.5-inch square, because it is such a good square to have. If you can't have a 12.5-inch square because of space, then have a 6.5-inch one. So if you've got a square board and you do it the right way, cutting squares is easy. So as you can see, cutting squares is easy. Just fabric and one of these square acrylic rulers, and you too can cut accurate squares.